When you picture Tai Chi, you probably imagine elderly people in a park moving slowly through graceful forms. I certainly did. But what if I told you it was actually a martial art taught to the Chinese military centuries ago? Welcome back to Exploring Ways to Wellness. This week I'm chatting with Cathy, who started Tai Chi at just 14. What I love about Cathy is how she combines the scientific with the spiritual. We'll explore what Qi actually is and about training intensively in China, as well as the motorbike crash that led her to acupuncture. This conversation weaves together movement, energy, recovery, and finding peace. Cathy shares why Tai Chi works as meditation for people who don't get on well with meditation, the reality of training 5 to 6 hours daily in the mountains, and why for many of her students, her Tai Chi class is the only piece they get all week. Whether you're curious about Tai Chi, interested in Qigong, or simply drawn to finding calm in chaos, Cathy's wisdom shines through. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Exploring Ways to Wellness. We have this week a very special guest. I came across Cathy when I was looking for some Qigong classes following doing a podcast episode on Qigong. And Cathy was running some at a local adult education centre. And I then, on doing her classes, found out she does lots of other things too, including Tai Chi. So Cathy has kindly agreed to come on and talk to us about Tai Chi and the other wonderful wellness things that she does. So welcome, Cathy.
Thank you. Nice to see you again, Sarah.
How did you find out about Tai Chi as a practice? What attracted you to it?
So it's a little bit of a strange one. So usually, anytime you read a Tai Chi book or a Qigong book, it's usually illness or accident that leads people to Tai Chi. So I come from a martial art background. I started doing a Chinese martial art when I was 9 years old. So from that, I got quite immersed in the martial art world, which is where I'm comfortable, really. So from there, I met my first Tai Chi teacher when I was about 14, I think, 14, 15.
14. Wow, so really
Then
early
I
on.
started from there, yeah. I came into it from the martial art perspective, which not many people go into too much. So usually Tai Chi, it's either martial art or it's health reasons or it's mobility. And usually it's the health reasons or the well-being or just the relaxation part. Fundamentally, you can trace all of it back to non-movement. And the same with yoga. So yoga practices used to be breathing only, then they added movements later on. And Qigong and Tai Chi seem to have come from similar pathways. For people like me that don't get on very well with meditation, it gives you that meditation level without the sitting there staring at a wall and getting bored part. So it gives you something to do and you're doing something with your whole body. And especially when so much nowadays is sitting down, desk jobs, chairs, driving, it's all sitting. So the idea of sitting and doing meditation when you've been sitting all day can be quite a lot on the body. So it's nice to have that contrast.
Yeah. I mean, already in you talking, I've realized I probably don't have the right understanding of what Tai Chi is. So because I have this sort of mental image of older people, moving through certain movements. And if you don't mind me saying, you do not look like an elderly person. And you're talking about meditation and things like that. So do you mind just helping me understand better what Tai Chi is?
Yep. So fundamentally, Tai Chi is a martial art. It used to be taught to the Chinese military, and we're talking like quite a few centuries back. But there's a lot of the history when it comes to things like this, because they've been around so long, can be quite hard to trace. There's not many martial arts, not many things that focus on slow, on breathing, on just making the body move as one unit. Because where you're moving different parts at different times in other martial arts, sometimes you lose that just cohesion of you're working with the body structures and building on that. So you can use a lot more power when things are lined up as
Yeah.
opposed to they're not. But I do know what you mean. It's for me, it's very unusual to see younger people doing Tai Chi. I think that's in part because a lot of the martial arts stuff has been lost a little bit and it's been focusing on health and mobility and those kind of things. I've always been the youngest in the class usually, which never really bothered me. And it is quite interesting because I came into it from a martial art background. It's a very difficult martial art, and a lot of people do give up on it because there's no grading systems, there's nothing like that. So people start losing the why they're doing it and things like that. But for me, it's I can tell if I haven't done Tai Chi for a couple of days because my joints start hurting and things like that, which you wouldn't think for my age and whatever, but it's just that thing of your body gets used to a certain standard and you don't feel it as much when you're doing it, but it's when you haven't done it, you really feel the differences.
Right. Okay. So it's of a daily benefit to have that practice in your life.
Yeah.
And do you find then that you have classes? Is it something that sort of you start at a basic level and then it gets more difficult, or you know the basic steps that are required within it, and it's a repetition, or is it like dancing where you put together a sequence? You can see I know nothing about this.
That's okay. So there are forms and sets for things. So Qigong is, you have Qigong sets and it would be one movement 6 to 8 times, then another movement 6 to 8 times like that. So that has the repetition level in it. There's loads of different focal points depending on what you're looking for. So you can pick, I did it in class the other week, just picking 3 movements from completely different sets that all had the same function. So they were fundamentally for supporting the lung and large intestine energy and just that immunity and to give that extra little bit of energetical boost because we're heading into winter now, autumn, winter, and people are starting to get sick. So that just helps encourage the Wei Qi, which is the body's natural immunity. So one of those movements is part of the 8 strands of blockade, which was used in a lot of hospitals in China around COVID time for the physicians to just support their own body system. In terms of Tai Chi, there's different forms which have loads of different movements taped together. And there's also different drills that you can do to practice footwork, to practice all these different things. And Tai Chi, it's come down the family branches. So the main branches are Chen and Yang style. So that's the Chen family and the Yang family. There are other families, there are other branches, and they all have slight differences to them. There's also the 10 principles. You can re-go over everything, just focusing on one principle. You could then focus on the breathing. You could then reverse the breathing to see how that feels. There's so much that you can do with it. And it's one of the most interesting things of training because when you think you understand something, someone might make a comment or you'll just have a little moment and then you realize that you don't actually understand it to the depth that there is. And it just unlocks more layers and layers and layers. And when you think you're done, there's like, nope, there's just another door. You open it, there's loads more behind it and loads more opportunity to train some more. So.
That's incredible. So you've got a whole lifetime of learning ahead of you by the sounds of it.
Yes, and I don't think I'd be done. If I make it to 90, I don't think I'd be done at that point, which is, yeah.
So if you were, after this, going to say, well, I want to choose a class between Tai Chi and Qigong, what would you recommend? Is the one that you would recommend people start with? Or do you need to know you have a certain issue that you're aiming for, whether that's the relaxation or rehabilitation or recovery from exercise or something like that?
It's different because it's doing different things.
So they look similar, but they are different.
Yes, Qigong is usually more focused for energy work. So whether it's building energy, whether it's condensing, clarifying, or where you've got certain health issues that you want to do a certain few movements that work specifically for that. or the sets for Qigong are usually built around a theme, but they're built for just overall health and well-being to balance everything. They're not usually geared towards a particular condition.
Okay, that makes sense.
So usually if you go to a Tai Chi class, they will do some Qigong, whether they say directly that this is a Qigong set or not.
Interesting.
So usually it's like a warm-up to do more Tai Chi. Whereas my classes are usually evening classes. I start off with Tai Chi and then go into Qigong because it just helps settle for the evening. So with a lot of the textbooks and a lot of the theories based in Taoist practices. So you would do Qigong in the morning, then Tai Chi because it's more gentle and it's a gentle way to warm the body up until you're doing something more physical. And then you want something nice to wind down for in the evening instead of doing something like high physical energy and then trying to go to sleep because that normally doesn't end well. So
It's I can imagine.
yeah. So it depends what you're looking for really. If you do either work for health and well-being and it's more what you feel resonates with you. For me, I can be quite particular about teachers. That's just because I've had such a privilege of such amazing teachers.
Would you recommend trying things out, trying some classes and seeing what sort of feels good for you?
Yeah, sometimes it's about finding the right teacher for you because I could have 10 students all coming for different reasons, but they can put their own influence in on what they want. So if they're coming for health reasons, they're going to be focusing on health benefits. If they're coming for martial art reasons, I still like to give and show the applications that go with the movement because that's the separation between dancing. It's the yi and the intention behind the movement and what you're doing and why to give you that focus.
Yeah. And does physical capability make a difference?
Not at all. So a lot of the books I've been reading at the moment and just I always come back to him. It's Chen Manqing brought a lot of Tai Chi over to America and wrote books and started just making it a bit more well known. And he practiced from young to quite old. And you can see videos where he's older and it's still the same movements, but they're just not as, like the squats aren't as deep. The movements that go low don't go as low, but it's still fundamentally the same movement. So it's not really about physical limitation.
That's lovely to have something that you can take through the whole of your life and it be so accessible to people of different situations. Can you do it seated, for example?
Yeah, you can do Qigong seated. You can do Tai Chi seated, but it's just the forms get a little bit complicated when you've got 24 movements that you've got to try and get into a way that makes sense on a chair. Yeah, it is incredibly adaptable and it's about working with the body you've got, not the one you want, because that's one of the hardest battles you learn over time.
Yeah, of course. And it can be a daily top of mind for many people.
Yeah,
from a physical perspective.
When it came to the Shaolin monks and things like that, they would meditate for as long as they could. But the problem was that their bodies were getting weak because they weren't exercising, they weren't doing anything for the physical side. A lot of these movements came from watching animals, watching birds, watching just different things. A lot of the names are quite intricate, but it's the way the Chinese language is, it's very metaphorical. So whereas Western stuff is, the languages, it fits in the box. The metaphorical allows you to just get all of that extra context that gets cut out.
That reminds me of the Qigong class that you did, and everything had such beautiful names, and it sort of brought more to it.
It does.
When you explain the name of the movement.
And it helps find the flow of it, really, which is a really integral part. So they found that they needed movements to build up their stamina and build up their physical body as quickly and efficiently as possible so they could meditate longer. It works on what it's built for.
Yeah. And it's very intentional movement, isn't it? So it might be slow and it might not look particularly complicated, but actually the muscles that are moving and the requirement on those muscles in order to make those movements, it builds them up, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's a very interesting exercise because it works on the tendons and the ligaments as well. So it allows that supporting structure. So where you have people that weight train quite heavily and move into that, and then they have you can get muscles that kind of burst a little bit from overwork. But if you add something like Tai Chi or Qigong that can strengthen that and just build a better foundation for what you're working with, it's great for recovery times. Usually people find that they have less recovery time than before. I have a friend who is a footballer, not regularly, but just, occasionally with their friends. But they found that after doing 2 Qigong classes, they didn't need to warm up as much and they didn't feel as rubbish for the next couple of days afterwards. So it's just the ways in which we move differently and it just gets the body to work a bit more efficiently.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Again, I hadn't considered how it could work together with other exercise regimes to actually complement it and improve things like recovery time. And have you been abroad and done this as well?
Yes. So my teacher used to go to China once a month every year, and I wanted to go as well. Saved up the money, and then circumstances and things changed, so it wasn't possible. So I kind of organised in a placement year for university to have. I started my placement year early, so I could finish it early. So I went to train in Shan, which is a Tai Chi school in Yangshan, which is in the Guilin province in China, it's incredible. There's Master Mei and Master Dazu. They're just both very incredible Tai Chi teachers. They've trained in the Chen lineage with Master Chen after he'd stopped accepting students, which is quite an honor. And Master Mei travels between China and America to teach. She does occasionally teach in Europe, but yeah, it's a purpose-built school. It's in the middle of the mountains. The views are incredible. You get a great view of the Yi River. You're just so away from everything, but you're just more engaged with everything that's going on. It was absolutely incredible. So it's about, I think, 5 or 6 hours of training every day.
Wow.
Apart from Sundays, but then I'd train anyway because I was there and why not? But it's
amazing.
It was, and it's a completely different way of training out there because you'll be left to do something for an hour and a half, I think. And you go through the stages of, I think I've got it, getting it, got it. Have I really got it? Now I've got lost in the movement. Now I'm getting a bit bored. Now I'm lost in the movement again. And then like, oh, what was I doing? And it just, but you just get such a depth and understanding out of it because there's so much. I see it a lot with my students as well. And I was very like that when I went to China. I was rushing through a lot of things instead of just following through and just doing everything at the pace that it should be at.
Yeah. I know when I did the Qigong with you, it was really interesting how what felt like a simple movement. And I thought I was following what you'd said to do, but then you'd come around and you were able to slightly adjust something and it would just feel so incredibly different. Like my brain was saying, I'm not really doing anything different. I don't think she's done anything, but actually in just slight change of movement. And I guess that's to do with the different, as you say, the tendons and that's physiologically the way that your body's moving. But you also mentioned Qi.
Yeah. So with the adjustments, it's something that Rose Furman taught me, and she was a very amazing teacher. She's sadly no longer with us, but if the structure is right, the Qi will flow. So if you've got any good teacher, they will make corrections because there's just sometimes you don't realize you're so close to getting something, but you're not quite there. So it's just in those little adjustments to just let the body relax and open up and to just let everything start flowing. Qi always ends up being a controversial discussion, and I just can never seem to understand why. So it's fundamentally, it translates over as energy, but it doesn't quite encapsulate what that means because energy can be quite a vague.
And it means different things to different people, doesn't it?
It does, which makes it just that little bit more complicated to understand. But from the fundamental point of view, it is just everything that exists is energy. Everything is made up of atoms and they're moving. And that's the fabric of everything. So you'll get people that say, oh, I don't feel chi, I don't believe in it, I don't, whatever. It's one of those, but we believe in the wind, but we can't see that. We just feel it. We believe in electricity, but you don't really see it working. You see there's electric running and a light turns on, but you don't actually see the electric part.
So you see the result of it, but you can't actually see the thing itself. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's one of those, there are loads of different classes that pop up with loads of different modalities. And I was chatting with another therapist a while back, and they were just like, I don't understand what they're talking about with chi because I can't feel it. And then we spent 20 minutes and they got it because they could feel it and it feels tangible. It's one of those, like, you feel how it feels when your hands go under a cold tap. If you're not feeling it tangibly, then you're not feeling it as fully as you could feel it.
Yeah. And you can feel it sort of internally and externally, can't you?
Yeah, so it depends on sensitivity levels as well, because we're taught from a young age to tune out things. So you're not taught to, when you're hungry and you want to eat, but it's not lunchtime yet, so we don't have dinner at this time. So we spend a lot of time quietly silencing the body's signals.
Mm.
And in doing that, you silence some of this. So it takes a long time to build that up, because in some circles, it's known as the sixth sense of feeling, because we just try not to feel things, whether it's emotions, whether it's stress, whether it's tension, whether it's pain, all of these things and a lot of time people get very, very sick from just pushing all of those feelings down, because you get the little warning sign. It's in the back of your head and you go, oh, 10 minutes. Oh, it can wait. It can wait. I just need to do this. This is more important. And eventually it will catch up, because it's going to at some point. So it's about tuning into those kind of things. And then that, as well as training, will just help increase the chi sensitivity so you can do something with it. So then you can start feeling it on the outside, on the inside. And then you get to a certain level of training where you don't try and chase the feeling, because sometimes you get caught up in feeling the chi and this feels amazing, that it then takes you away from the actual practice. And then you go down this rabbit hole if you're chasing a certain feeling instead of working with the rest of what the body's doing.
That's really interesting. I could imagine me doing that, actually. Imagine me like wanting to reach this utopian situation.
Yeah.
Forgetting that it's everything around it is the important bit, as well as.
Yeah, it is very hard, because there are some movements where you do get really carried away with, because you can just feel that expression going out. So one that we did, which was wild goose spreads its wings, your hands come up and you come up on tiptoes at the same time. Rose taught me to do that differently, by your knees coming up when the hands go down. So you get this, it's the fourth of the 10 principles of Tai Chi, that you have substantial and insubstantial. So you've got movement going up and down at the same time, instead of both going up or both going down. So it's one of those, it's a small adjustment. And after a while, it feels so much better to do it in a way that works with opposing forces than the way that feels great the first time round.
Have you had any health issues, for example, that then after your Tai Chi you felt have improved?
So from all the other martial arts I've done, you pick up injuries and like little things that you've done that may not have been the most sensible thing at the time, that you get those aches and pains from. And it's one of those you don't realize when you're training Tai Chi until about 4 hours afterwards. And you're like, oh, well, I'm not as stressed as I would be if I hadn't have done that. So
Yeah.
with the bike crash, I crashed my motorbike by accident with the car, and it wasn't one of the smartest things I've done. Incredibly
That sounds painful.
Yeah, your accident, but it helped just get everything straightened up again. Yeah, quite a few aches and pains, but it just helped settle everything out and make every day just that little bit less painful, until I could get to a point where I could start rebuilding muscle and all the things that I couldn't do before. I had a patch, quite a large patch on my leg, where I got my leg crushed between a car and a motorbike. So I lost all the feeling in that for about 5 or 6 years. And then when I was out in China, I had acupuncture out there. And that actually just started bringing the feeling back. And then through more acupuncture sessions, I've got full feeling back, which I didn't think was possible. So it's just said that that's how you're going to live for now. And it was like, right, okay, so now it's actually just back to normal, really.
That's brilliant. And I think you then went on to train in acupuncture as well, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah. Because of just, so from the Tai Chi, I went to Shiatsu, which is like Thai massage, but that works along the same meridian system and the same system within the body. So it just uses the acupuncture points. So the acupuncture just targets things just that little bit deeper.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to train in it, and it was things have changed in terms of training courses that are offered, and there was one that was offered for people that have trained in something else, which is great
Right.
because it used to just be you had to do a degree, and I couldn't afford to do a second degree.
Yeah.
It would have been lovely to have the opportunity, but it's very hard to just, drop everything, and especially the university fees.
Yeah. So on the subject of acupuncture, I guess it's come from an ancient system, if you like, ancient technique once again, in terms of its roots. But there's research being done into these things all the time, isn't there? So have there been any updates recently to things like acupuncture?
Yeah, so acupuncture can be traced back to 400 AD with uses of bone shards as needles, which is quite impressive. And there's also links into tattooing where they used to grind little rocks under the points to keep them kind of permanently pressed for like long-term issues. So
Oh, wow.
it's got such a rich and deep history behind it. The meridian system was established that early. That's back before we were cutting open people and cadavers, like with the early development of Western science as we know it. So in Korea, there were a few scientific studies they did with acupuncturists to inject dyes along the meridian lines because
I think I did
scientists,
hear this.
yeah, so scientists said that it didn't exist because they couldn't find it, and then worked with acupuncturists and it just lit up the whole system. And there's a lot of theories that it works within the lymphatic system as well. So there's
Right.
still more stuff being developed, more things coming out. So recently I had a client approach me with neuralgia paresthesia,
Okay.
which is, it's one of those 1% conditions where only 1% of the population has it. And they approached me with this amazing scientific study done on that condition with acupuncture, with electrolysis, and it was a really well-rounded study, and it listed which points were used, and it listed that it used it in electrolysis as well. But for me, I'd have just liked to have seen which points and how they wired it up. We've made quite a good amount of progress, and I didn't know at the time, but they had dropped their physio appointments and were just using acupuncture. And on their regular checkups to keep it managed, the nursing team said that this is outstanding. They didn't expect the results that this person has got. They didn't expect it to be as manageable as it has been, especially with the flare up that they had, which had caused them to have the situation where they contacted me
Wow.
because they were looking on groups and got sent that study. So
Yeah.
it used to be part of the NICE guidelines and it got taken off a while ago. But because of this, the nurse that's working with them has started to do the paperwork to get acupuncture added back as a NICE guideline because of how much benefit they've seen with this one client. It's been quite amazing to see such a great change.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And as you say, because it's measurable, you can directly attribute, well, that's happening because of what you've been doing.
Yeah, and it's so nice to, from when they first came to see me, they couldn't walk very far. I think it was maybe 10 minutes tops. And then they walk longer distances now. They walked for 2 hours the other day without any flare
Wow.
ups, any repercussions. And yeah, it's so nice to make such a lasting difference. It's not the same for everyone, but just in the cases where acupuncture really does work for you and how far that can go. We do have a very strange culture in where it's just, we just ignore the pain or we just manage it in a way that's not really managing until just it falls apart and our body crumbles a little bit rather than just getting things looked at as soon as to make sure we're working in the way the traditional Chinese medicine works, if it's preventative instead of getting to the point where you're then having to build back up from injury, from illness, from those kind of things.
So you offer all sorts of things, which is fantastic. And it sounds like they all kind of complement each other. So you've got groups that people can go along to if they want to try something out. And do you do one-to-one work as well, or is that mainly with your acupuncture?
Yeah, I do one-to-one sessions. It's just if people want or need or something specific. Sometimes people want the health benefits for Qigong because it's really great at stress reduction, for anxiety disorders, for depression, for sometimes you've got PTSD and kind of panic disorders, and that just helps settle the body on a physiological point of view. It just aids that support. The acupuncture has really just opened up a world of changes, really, because I've got friends that have had problems for years and now they don't have problems. And it's just amazing to make those changes. So I can't promise miracles, but the thing I do guarantee is that I will do everything I can. And when that runs out, then I've got a referral base, because sometimes when you've tried every possible thing, you've gone through so many NHS referrals, it's got nowhere. They've just gone, well, we don't know what else to offer you. And then to find something that doesn't quite work, and then you're left stuck there looking for something else. But and I don't want clients to feel like that, because it's not a nice feeling. So
No, of course. So I'll put links in the show notes for everyone to be able to follow you on social media, find out more about the plethora of things that you offer, including Tai Chi, Qigong, acupuncture, we said as well, and shiatsu. So there's all sorts of things there to follow and to join in some of Cathy's classes. I know I'm going to be looking for more Qigong classes, and maybe I do try out some Tai Chi as well. It's just reminded me that we went to a family festival a few years ago and they were offering Tai Chi classes. And it was amazing how peaceful you could feel despite being not very far away from absolute chaos.
Yeah, that's one thing I do find, that no matter how chaotic things are, you can always just get everything to stop for a minute. And a lot of the people that come to my classes, that's the only peace they get in the entire week. But it's that moment where they can fully be away from all of it, because we live in such a very strange society where everything is so busy, so immediate, so urgent, the notifications that, you should be responding to everything all the time. And to just be able to say, no, I'm busy, and to just have that space to not need to respond or react is quite powerful.
Yeah, that's beautiful and very attractive.
Yeah, there's
a piece of peace. Fantastic. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Cathy. There was a lot to go over today, and I'm sure I've only just scratched the surface. So I'll be popping along to your website and having a look and finding out more. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you.
What a generous conversation. Cathy's journey from martial artist to Tai Chi at 14, training in China, and the motorbike crash that left her leg numb for 6 years before discovering acupuncture could bring feeling back. It's quite a path. And I loved how it all connected. A few things really stayed with me. First, that Tai Chi is actually a martial art, taught to the Chinese military centuries ago. I had no idea. The meditation for people who don't get on well with meditation description was perfect. When so much of our lives is sitting, desk jobs or driving, the last thing many of us want to do is sit more to meditate. So Tai Chi giving you a meditated state while actually moving your body, and the fact it works on tendons and ligaments, not just muscles, means you're building that deeper supporting structure. Cathy's explanation of Qi was one of the clearest I'd heard, and it was so true that we've been taught to tune out our body's signals. Great to hear that Tai Chi helps rebuild that sensitivity. I loved her description of measurable changes, the motorbike crash leading to acupuncture training, and how seeing clients make remarkable progress, like the one who went from walking a few minutes to 2 hours. Results so impressive, the nursing team's working to get acupuncture back on the NICE guidelines. But perhaps most important, for many of Cathy's students, that class is the only piece they get all week. In our busy, urgent, immediate world, the power of saying, "No, I'm busy," and just having space to not respond, that's profound. In fact, reflecting on my music festival experience too, being able to find a peaceful activity despite loud, crowded chaos nearby, that's not just a nice idea. For people managing stress, anxiety, PTSD, panic disorders, that skill of finding calm in the storm is life-changing. As you heard, Cathy offers Tai Chi, Qigong, Shiatsu and acupuncture in Rugby in the UK, and the information's in the show notes. So whether you try a class or simply remember that finding peace doesn't require perfection, just practice. I hope this gave you something valuable. Until next time, take care of yourselves. And remember, there are many paths to wellness. Sometimes, in a world that demands speed, the most powerful movement is the one done slowly, with intention.